All right, Shalom. First off, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shah, Bahasham Rakakadas. I want to give double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, and the sincere Shalom. Try to Akim out here that's doing and pushing this work in truth and in sincerity. I want to go on this video that modern Christians don't have the ability to prove the Bible is real like Hebrew Israelites do. Okay, and a lot of these Christians, um, you know, now I asked the question, is a Christian, how do you know, prove that the Bible is real and that that the Lord is real? Okay, and none of them ever they didn't say anything about you know you go to this precept, you use this Bible verse or anything like that. You go into history, you know. They didn't say anything. Only thing that they said was you be an example, you know, or the Lord has to, you know, deal with you personally, for you to get it, right? Which I can, agree to that to a certain extent, you know. Um, you but they just make it seem like it's just an interpersonal thing, and that there is no way of actually using the Bible, you know going scripture for scripture to actually show that the Bible is real, and that that the God of the Bible, what he has done in history, what he was going on right now in the world, okay, and in the future, okay, is real and is legit. Like the Bible is actually legit. These Christians do not have that ability to actually go into the scriptures and prove that they are real. Hebrew Israelites do, in particular Great Millstone. Okay. Um so it says uh the claim is that the Bible, it proves itself through fulfilled prophecy, history, and consistent scripture rather than primarily through personal testimony or moral example. Okay. It says common arguments include prophecy as evidence. Okay, don't this is what Hebrew Israelites do. They point to passages they believe describe historical and present day events. Okay, Deuteronomy 28. Okay, it talks about the blessings and the curses upon Israel. Daniel 2 and 7, successive world empires. Matthew 24, signs preceding the end. Revelation 13 and 17 through 18, it says their interpretation of end time powers. Okay, especially Revelation 13. We talk about the MOTB, the mark of the beast. Okay, and it says precept upon precept. They emphasize comparing scripture with scripture rather than relying on church tradition. That's Isaiah 28 and 9 through 10, and in 1 Corinthians 2 and 13. Okay, historical identity. They argue that biblical prophecy about Israel's scattering and captivity matches the history of the people they identify as Israelites today, citing passages like Deuteronomy 28 and 68, Hosea 1, Ezekiel 37, and Baruch, which some traditions include in their canon. Consistency of the text. They often argue that difficult passages are explained by other passages instead of being interpreted in isolation, like Christians like to, interpret the scripture, you know, uh, uh, isolating the scripture, and they'll say, "Well, start at the top, and don't even go to no other scriptures." You know, they try to get the understanding of the scripture, and they just, totally mess it up, okay, because they don't have it. It says many Christian traditions, by contrast, also appeal to fulfill prophecy in scripture, but they often place greater emphasis on transformed lives, the historical evidence of Jesus' name is Yahweh Shah, resurrection, okay, the spread of Christianity and personal testimony alongside biblical teaching, right? Now, a lot of these Christians don't even know how, Christianity then spread to, you know, to the form that it's in today, okay? Why do you have, um, this Christian um, denomination, okay, that teaches different from this Christian denomination, okay? And why is it all these different beliefs, okay, different set of beliefs of people who claim that they believe in the Bible, okay, but they don't, they differ on different, um, topics when it comes to the Bible, okay? It says so. It isn't really accurate to say. Well, it says many Christians make detailed biblical and historical arguments, while others focus on witness through conduct. Likewise, many Israelites emphasize scriptural debate, going scripture for scripture. Okay, which we don't, Great Millstone, we don't get into all the debates and stuff like that. Okay, now if somebody, ask us, you know, uh, about what we believe in, what the truth is, and stuff like that, you know, then we are, apt to go into the scriptures and break it down. Okay, apt to teach. Okay, it says, as a primary way of defending their belief, right? I mean, it's not our words, what the Bible say, you know. These Christians, they want to just blurt out with their own opinion of what they think, is the actual truth. And it's like, come on now. Like you claim to be the people of the Bible, but you don't know nothing that's inside of the Bible. And then when we say, you know, things inside of the Bible, you only want to blurt out, 4 or 5 scriptures, if that, you know. And it's the same regurgitated scriptures. Now a lot of these Christians now they want to start going into, you know, the certain things that they never studied before, because now we are bringing out these facts about Christianity, about the truth when it comes down to the scriptures, right? Christians, you know now they want to start, bringing out, certain things that we it's like you never broke that down in the church, you know. You never broke down what is your doctrine. You never broke that down. Okay, all we hear about is, Virgin Mary, and Mary was a virgin, and those different types of things, and it's like, yo, that's not biblically true. Okay, you can't prove that is the truth. Okay, we go into those different types of things precept upon precept. Okay, because you got to study to show that you approve, rightly dividing the word of truth. And Christians don't have that ability to rightly divide the word of truth. All they say, hey, the Lord showed himself in my life, and I believe. That's all it takes. I believe in the Bible, but you don't know what you believe in the Bible, you know? And if somebody asks you, well, what do you believe? You don't even know how to win that person over. It's just, if you got that mindset, the Lord just got to wake you up. The Lord just got to deal with you. You know, it's like, how are you claiming to be somebody that's of the Lord? How are you a messenger? Okay, if you just using your own words, not His. It says the New Testament itself presents multiple forms of evidence. Okay, Acts 7 and 2 through 3 says Paul reasoned from the scriptures. explaining and proving his message. Okay, Acts 18 and 28 says Apollos powerfully refuted opponents in public, showing by the scriptures that Yahweh Shah was the Messiah. Christians don't know how to go into the scriptures and show that the Lord is the Messiah. You know, where break that down. How is Jesus the Lord that was prophesied and spoken of? And don't you do it yourself, right? You break that down yourself. Don't send me to someone else who, you know, you think, or you want to learn, you got to go to this person. Well, if you was a studied person, a studied individual, right? Because what if that person ended up dying, right? It- how is how is the message going to keep going? You know, you send a video to somebody, what if that video get taken down? Okay, so you break that down. You got to be able to, say these things, and of how the Lord is the Messiah. Okay, what was his purpose? Okay, to take sin away from. How break that down? Okay, and make it understandable. Then don't just say, "Oh, it's just for you. The Lord ain't just wake you up. The Lord ain't like no." You gotta. If a person is asking you these things sincerely, right? To see whether you gotta try the spirit by the spirit. That's what the scriptures say. Go into the scriptures and show that is the case. Hebrew Israelites, we are a body, right? When we go out there on the streets, if I don't know, a particular thing, another brother may know a particular thing. He might not know something, but I might know something, but it's all a body. We all work in unison. Christians are not a body working in unison like that. Okay? And then we all are out there speaking the same thing. We're not speaking different things, speaking different doctrines. These Christians are speaking different doctrines. It says First Peter 3 and 15 encourages believers to be prepared to give a reason for their hope. Okay? Matthew 5 and 16 also teaches that righteous conduct is a witness, right? It says so the Bible presents both using scripture to make a case, okay, and living in a way that reflects one's beliefs rather than treating them as mutually exclusive. Okay? So yeah, we are supposed to be in the right conduct, okay, having the right mannerisms, okay. Um, you can't just say that you're a believer and then you don't got no works to go along with it. You got faith, you don't got no works, you know. And then somebody, you just end up being wicked, and they be like, how is this person, supposed to be of God and he's doing those things? And his characteristics don't even match up with what's inside of the Bible. Right? You gotta show, that the Lord is actually dealing with you. Okay? And one of the ways is, the through the knowledge. Now, I'm gonna get this. Proverbs 11 and 30. Okay? The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that wins souls is wise. Okay? So we out to win souls for the Lord. Yeah, the Lord wakes up who he wants. He puts his influence on, those individuals. Okay. But is the people, that the Lord sent forth, okay, to teach this word, okay, we got to win these souls, right? Um, this is Titus 1 and 9. It says, holding fast the faithful word as he has been taught. So you, for one, you do have to be taught, right? Who is teaching these Christians, their doctrine and what they believe? Like I said, some people make it. They can say, oh, go, look at this video or come to, church and right? But then you not holding fast. You not holding on to what that person say. Yeah, you can say you can try to point it to a teacher, right? Point this person to a teacher, but you're not holding fast onto what you was taught, right? You have to be. If you got to take that message, if that is the case, and increase on it. It says that he may be able by sound doctrine both to exhort and to convince the gainsayers. Okay, so if you holding fast onto what you was taught, then that means that somebody that speaks contrary, or whatever the case may be, you should be able to convince that person. Christians don't have that ability. Okay, and that's one of the reasons why they losing members. You know, but then they'll say, well, that's just because that person, uh, you know, uh, uh, the Lord wasn't dealing with them, or whatever the case may be. You know, and it's not, they wasn't in the right. What is the right conduct? What is the right words? Where's the right things to do and teach? They're not doing that. Okay. So with that, Lord willing, this is edifying. I want to say shalom until next time.